Now, Kirk, let's go to you for this story. This is incredibly disturbing. You had a commentary about it. This is the new Canada. Muslim jihadist Abdul Aziz Kawam asked a person sitting at a bus stop if he was Muslim. And when he said no, Abdul did a prayer and attacked him with a knife. Then he boarded a bus, and that's the footage there, folks, and tried to slash the victim's throat. You know, I don't even recognize my beloved Dominion anymore. And my take on this, I think, Kirk, it goes back almost 2 years ago to the massacre in Israel when we had what I call the Hamasholes coming out on the streets every weekend, chanting genocide, which is against the criminal code, displaying swastikas, cosplaying as Sinwar, if you can believe it. And what do the cops do? Well, they don't do anything. Well, that's not true. They'll arrest peaceful counter demonstrators. They'll arrest members of the independent press. And on very cold days, they'll bring the Hamasholes coffee and Timbits. What I think is happening is that when the mob sees that no one's in charge, they are emboldened and they push the envelope further. I'm making a lot of assumptions. I don't know. Maybe this guy is completely off his rocker. He's mentally ill. But because he's bringing up the religious element, that's where I'm going with it. What's your analysis on in terms of what the unspoken story might be here?
Well, I think what's happening in Canada is absolutely insane, and this is a new reality that we have to face. And this is not the only incident. So this guy, just a quick background on this guy. He's pled allegiance to ISIS. He's made videos of him supporting ISIS. His computer was full of different radicalization videos and everything that comes with the territory. He's been wandering around the streets in Syria specifically to kill non-Muslims for ISIS. And he found one at the shelter. That's why he asked him if he's a Muslim or not. The person said no. He did a 2-minute prayer next to him and then went to try to attack him. And then afterwards, he still had all the time in the world to board a bus and slash that guy's throat that was in the video, which is luckily he cut his vocal cords, but nothing more serious than that. And this is something that it's not the first case, it's not the last case. So we have a lot of radicalization happening in Canada. The IRGC that's been designated as a terrorist group, the Canadian government hasn't gone against anyone at all trying to remove them out of Canada. We haven't stopped any radicalization in any mosques. We have videos of imams preaching hate and terrorism nonstop. We have tons of famous videos from the imam in Victoria, who is glorifying child sacrifice essentially for the cause of jihad. We have immigrated and gave citizenship to a father who was on video for ISIS beheading a person with a sword, and he was still able to get Canadian citizenship. And they planned an attack in New York to kill as many people, as many Jews as possible. Thankfully, the FBI was able to put a stop to it because our authorities are so incompetent in handling the situation. And I think this is one of the biggest issues we have in Canada. We're facing now with things that we haven't had to face before on a large scale. And now this occurrence is almost every other month in Canada, including a lot of youth involved in it now. So we have a lot of radicalization happening at a young age, which is probably the most dangerous thing happening, because as they grow up, it just gives you the idea of scale that's happening at certain communities.
Oh, 100%. I mean, whether you're a marketer on Madison Avenue or a Marxist, as the saying goes, get them young, get them forever. But I'm going to give you some friendly advice, Kirk. Be very careful when you criticize the IRGC. I found out the hard way a year ago, January, when I asked Fraulein Freeland about this terror group. Well, I got falsely arrested and assaulted by her personal protection. So there were some sacred cows in this country. But, Daniel, I want to get your take on this angle. I find that this story is getting nowhere near the amount of attention that it should be getting in the mainstream media. And I ponder if Abdul looked like, well, me, and he was wearing a Make America Great Again cap, and he was citing biblical verses, and then went on his jihad. I'm thinking front page across the country, toxic Christianity, white supremacy, you name it. The left would lose their mind. But once again, it's like, somebody kind of got angry, and let's not dwell on it. I think the hypocrisy is outrageous. What say you?
I think it is. I think that if it had been the scenario you outlined, it also would have probably gained headlines more for being an outlier than anything else, because I think that violence like this, be it religiously motivated from a terrorist kind of perspective, Canadians have somewhat become inured to these headlines. We've seen these protests from people supporting Hamas. We've seen Samadoun. We've seen these people for years now taking up the streets, occupying spaces, getting increasingly violent. We've seen NDP MPs give speeches wearing the garb of a terrorist entity. And I think at this point, Canadians are almost just, we're overburdened with, and this is just speaking about that sort of thing. Never mind the dad who got killed outside a Starbucks in Vancouver for asking someone not to vape near his kid. Yes. The 8-year-old boy who got shot accidentally in Toronto like 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
The violence is growing, and we see these headlines. I mean, the one that kind of gets me is the 8-year-old boy one, because 10, 15 years ago, that would have been frontline news for a week plus. There was an innocent person killed in Vancouver, and it created a week's worth of headlines, a police crackdown, innocent people are being killed by gangbangers in the street. We need to stop this. An 8-year-old gets shot in his house, and it's just, Mark Carney tweets about something that happened in Minneapolis instead. And it's this, and this is what I think is driving why I say when Poilievre makes these statements, he's got room to run, because in this video, I think, what Kirk speaks about with regards to the changing face of violence in Canada and how we're opening ourselves up to a threat that we haven't seen before. A lot of Canadians probably just see a TransLink bus and go, I've ridden that. That could have been me.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of these violent headlines are having an impact that I don't think the politicians recognize, because they prefer the stats. They look at the raw numbers. Mark Carney goes to StatsCan and goes, well, crime ticked down 0.4%, we're winning. But they're ignoring the fact that it is now at such a rate. The crimes are occurring in places that people can see themselves. Everyone has stood outside a Starbucks, and everyone watched the video of that guy getting killed outside a Starbucks. Everyone's ridden a bus. Everyone watches this video of a guy getting stabbed on a bus. And they just go, that could be me. And then that drives this ethos of, we need to prioritize self-defense. We need to be able to look after ourselves in a way that we've not seen before. And I think it's actually healthy, because the leaning on police to do our work for us and to protect us, the police can't really protect you. They come after the fact, and you hope it's still going on long enough that they can do something about it. I think it's a good move, but I think it's very scary at the same time, because I wonder where this will go. I mean, we do seem to be targeted by extremist groups. We have been since 9/11, when those guys trained how to fly up here. Are we the soft target for North American Western culture? Probably. Do we want to keep being that? Probably not.
Well said, Daniel. And, Drea, Surrey is in your neck of the woods. And to Daniel's point about the timeline, 10 to 15 years, I think that's a good timeline. I have seen, I guess coincidentally in the last decade, Canada under Liberal rule. But in 10 years, I have seen wicked declines by every metric in this country. And I want to ask you, I'm not familiar with Surrey, but do you say, 10, 15 years ago, if you lived in Surrey, would anyone dream this could be a danger, that you're sitting at a bus stop, minding your own business, and some random stranger comes out of the blue, and he's, as the Bruce Springsteen line goes, he's wearing trouble on his shirt. He's looking for somebody to murder. I mean, was this ever a thing in Surrey 15 years ago?
Well, Surrey has always been sort of a crime hotspot when you look at the rest of the landscape here, and it's only gotten worse and worse and worse. But no, I don't think, 10, maybe 15 years ago, people would expect something like this happening. But like was said just before, there's a pattern out here in British Columbia. Yusuf Kathadra, the imam that was mentioned as well, is very extreme in what he says and glorifies martyrs as if it's, the most noble thing that you can become. And that's not just in front of his, congregation, that imam. He has a YouTube channel. He is in charge of a whole youth sort of community center. And this is who these people are when they're going and listening to him, getting their advice and direction from. We also had the plane that was recently hijacked in British Columbia. And that person also, made pledges to Allah on Facebook before going there, and Islam. So this is a pattern that we're seeing. And a lot of it is centered in BC. So I think if anybody's paying attention now, it is less surprising. I remember when I first heard about this horrific incident on the bus, I was like, I've heard this before. And sure enough, it was years ago. I think it was 2015. The same thing happened in LA, I believe it was. I put the link there. But somebody went and said, "Are you Muslims?" And when they said no, he stabbed them as well. So it's a very frightening thing, and we need to pay attention to this radicalization. And meanwhile, we have the RCMP telling the public that traditional views are what's the new extremism.
Yeah, and the Prime Minister saying Muslim values are Canadian values. I wonder if that dovetails into jihadi values, Sharia values. I'm a little unclear, but I think the takeaway, I'm not trying to make light of the situation, if any dude looks like he's packing a knife or worse, asks you if you're a Muslim, the answer is yes. I'm on my way to the mosque right now because I don't like this disturbing trend emerging.